All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Ageless Partners webinar. Thanks everyone for coming. Today, we will be going through Ageless Epigenetics, and I want to give a quick overview, a little bit about myself, our speaker today, and about Ageless Partners, and then we will jump right in. So you'll see on our website here that I'm sharing different areas where we have research and trends. And within here, we have different topics like Ageless Multiomics, which is a presentation we actually recently just had a few weeks ago, and various topics. And all the material both on the research and trends section are centered around really two common themes. One of them being deciphering the anti-aging code. So really just understanding what is the process, what is happening in our biology, why is this happening, and what can we do today to slow it down, and what is on the horizon to reverse it. So those are two areas that you'll see there. A little bit about myself. So I have a master's in financial engineering. I've worked at 2 proprietary trading firms and multiple hedge funds. Most recently, I launched Ageless Partners, and it's been very interesting learning about aging. And essentially, the thing that I discovered is that aging is reversible. It's reversible, and it's inevitable that we figure out a way to reverse it. But really, we're not moving fast enough. We're not moving fast enough towards that goal, and we have over 150,000 people dying each day from aging and age-related diseases. So one of our goals is to accelerate that path to an ageless future, and we want to do that as quickly as possible to save those people who are suffering now. So that's about me. A little bit about Kamila. Kamila is an ageless researcher. Her background is in biology and computer science, and she's also a nutritionist. She's been studying at places like UC San Diego, and most recently doing her master's in computer science. And she's been doing these webinars for some time now, and has just been phenomenal. And we really appreciate Kamila taking the time to do these. Let me talk a little bit quickly about 2 other things, and then I'll pass it over to you, Kamila. Just want to mention we do have our first product we just launched called the Ageless Lifestyle Guide, and this is something you can order on the website. And it goes through just different ways to slow down your aging today, and different biohacks that you can do to optimize your health and different things like that. And we also have ageless coaching sessions where you can schedule a one-on-one session with an ageless coach to talk about different things. And I'll just mention none of it's medical advice for both of these. And it's all about just increasing your understanding and increasing your ability to take advantage of these new tools and techniques that are coming out in real time, really around the clock. And the discoveries are being made so quickly now. It's really mind-boggling. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Kamila. Thanks again. And Kamila, I'll have you share your screen.
Sure. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for this brilliant introduction. And thank you everyone for your time and for your interest in epigenetics. And this is a really popular topic, and everyone is talking about epinutrition and the ways to influence our epigenome. So today, if you'll find anything new to yourself, I'd be considering my job done. So just let me. Oh, okay. Jason, could you let me please share my screen?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Now, what is epigenetics? We'll Well, before the presentation, I'd like to talk what you are going to be hearing about today. We will talk about what is epigenetics and what are the reactions happening when our epigenome is being modified. Then we will talk about the factors that influence our epigenetics and the ways we can improve our immunity in our epigenome. Also, we will talk about the ways to activate the lymph movement and some other stuff to live a healthier and happier life and to reverse aging. So what is epigenetics? This term literally means on top of or in addition to genetics. And it is a collection of chemical tags compared to the genome, which is a set of genes. It is things that are happening to our genome, and it includes any genetic expression modifier, which we will talk in detail. And here we can see that environment together with our genetic variations represented as family history and heritability compose our epigenetic changes. And through some of the mechanisms that we will talk, and those influence on every aspect of our health. And what are those chemical tags that are actually influencing our epigenome? They are mainly post-translational histone modifications and DNA methylation. And actually, epigenome does not affect the DNA sequence, but it only modifies the chromatin structure through opening or condensing the state of genome. And some of the examples include histone acetyltransferases, which are enzymes that add acetyl to histones, and histone deacetylases, which are enzymes that remove acetyl group from histone. And those mainly the mechanisms removing or adding the group to a histone. And namely, what reactions are happening during these modifications? They are acetylation of lysine residues, methylation, phosphorylation, ubiquitination, simylation, and ADP ribosylation. And here on the pictures, we can see the groups which are being added or removed from the gene from histones. First, top left is acetyl, then it's methyl group. After that, it's phosphorus, and two of the proteins are ubiquitin and ubiquitin-like modulator, which is SUMO, and reaction is called simylation. And the last one is ADP ribose, which also are added or removed from histone. And generally, what happens is that as you can see here on the picture, our DNA is wrapped around the histone, and those histones form a nucleosome, which then makes transcription factors to access the DNA to transcribe and to produce the protein eventually. And when our genome is not modified enough, the chromatin becomes inaccessible. And that's why those reactions are very crucial to have some genes, some especially beneficial genes, to turn on. And what happens mainly in histone acetylation is that when active chromatin is getting added, when histone gets acetyl group added to its sequence, transcription increases, and generally it means that a protein will be produced. And whereas when the acetyl group gets removed from histone, it means that transcription is stopped and protein and gene, so-called, not working anymore. And why is it important in aging? Well, aging is an unavoidable part of life as of now, but it also distinguished by a gradual loss of tissue and organ function, which means that we lose the information with the time about the genes, and a lot of histone information is lost, and there is also a heightened chance of death. And that's why epigenome is crucial in aging, and epigenome acts as a mediator. And this question is actually like the interaction between epigenome and aging is really complex, and it acts both ways. So we can answer on the question, how does the chemical environment affect the rate at which the epigenome ages? Because we live nowadays in an environment which is full of different chemicals, some of them being beneficial and some of them being harmful to us. And it also affects our epigenome. And in turn, our epigenome's response to chemical environment gets affected by this. So today we will be focusing on the ways to improve the chemical environment to affect the rate at which an epigenome ages. And hopefully we will be able to answer on both of the questions in near future. What is the influence and how much is genetics actually inheritable? Recent studies have shown that actually genetics influences to 10 to 16% on our aging. And given that aging is a multifactorial process, which we'll need to keep in mind always, it comes very, actually, it surprises myself that epigenetics have such a big impact on our aging processes. And that's why this is another reason why we need to consider how we can improve our epigenome. And some of the sources of epigenetic variability include, as you can see here, diet, of course, seasonal correlations, disease exposure, toxic chemicals, drugs, financial status, exercise, our microbiome, therapeutic drugs, alternative medicine, and social interaction, and of course, psychological state. Some of them are being called as a non-negotiable things like diet, for example. These are non-negotiable things that are actually we need to consider first, but then to restore the epigenetic modulation, we need to consider balanced diet. We need to have physical activity. We need to often be outdoors. We need to consider mental well-being, periodic fasting, anti-stress, getting enough sleep, and also cold showering, because cold exposure to cold environments actually beneficially influences on our mitochondrial well-being. And some of the personalized non-negotiables include maybe elimination protocols, because we need to decrease the level of intoxication happening in our body. And it also includes not consuming inflammatory foods and high histamine foods, because it will eventually decrease the toxic effects happening in our body. And some of the other non-negotiables may also include habits and routines such as set bedtime, meditation, hydration, and community connection, and others. So when we talk about the expectations and compare it to our reality, we can say that there are some doctors that practice in ancient India and Tibet, and there is people that practice Ayurveda medicine, for example, and they say that old age should not come too soon, and that a person should grow old only 2-3 years before death. But when we compare it to our reality, we see that average life expectancy in the world is 69 years. And what is actually happening to our bodies and what keeping us from living actually 400 years, for example? And some of the factors include so-called batteries do not work. It means that our mitochondrial well-being gets decreased with time. Also, there is acidification of the body. enzyme deficiency, intoxication, and dioxin contamination, some metabolic disorders happening, and also disorders of lymph movement and blood circulation. We will talk about each of those in detail. So, for example, factors provoking body acidification include improperly organized diet. For example, we often consume tannic acid from black tea or coffee. We consume uric acid from meat products. We consume nitric acid from cheese and some other meats like fast food. And we also consume phosphoric acid with sweet drinks and some other stuff. And these are not the only acids we consume each day, and there is also excessive medication which exacerbating the situation. For example, some of the painkillers have acetylsalicylic acid, and lack or excessive physical activity also influences on the body acidification, and also non-compliance with the drinking regimen influences on this and exacerbates the situation. And we need to consume alkalizing products, and some of the examples include lemon, consuming parsley, consuming beets, consuming radishes, carrots, asparagus, broccoli, cabbage, and some other green vegetables. And another is dioxin contamination and intoxication. Dioxins are highly toxic compounds that are stable and dangerous environmental pollutants. They mainly accumulate in fatty tissues of animals, and they enter the human body through meat and dairy products, fish and shellfish. That's why we need to be aware about the source the meat is coming from. We need to, for example, if we talk about the poultry, we will need to consider if the chicken is grass-fed, or is the environment where the meat was produced is good enough for eventually being beneficial to our health. And consequences of dioxin exposure include reproductive health disorders, damage to the immune system, hormonal disorders, liver disease, and some other, such as disruption of the nervous system. And there are also metabolic disorders and enzyme deficiencies that are happening. For example, our habit of taking something during the day, sweet, and taking it with a sweet drink, it actually leads to the insulin resistance. It violates our carbohydrate metabolism, and it also influences eventually in our lipid metabolism. And for example, some of the enzymes of animal origin inhibit the production of our own enzymes, and we also need to consider phytoestrogens when we consume a lot of tea or a lot of polyphenols. We need to consider if the phytoestrogens are not substituting our own estrogens. And that's why this all is very important, and also it influences on our immunity. And some of the key factors is decreased lymph circulation. And as you know, lymph is a part of the immune system that moves and removes immune cells. And it contains lymphocytes, which are responsible for recognition of aggressors and labeling them with the help of antibodies, neutralization of foreign cells, and their destruction. And here on the picture, you can see the direction which we can induce the lymph movement. So for example, we can do massage, and we need to do the movements in this way to improve our immunity and to help the lymphocytes finally move across the body. And some of the ways to activate the movement of lymph include physical exercises. For example, feet on the wall exercise. You can lie on your back and place your legs on the wall and straighten your legs to lean against the wall with the entire surface of the feet, and keep legs relaxed. This helps our lymph, and it helps also our blood circulation. And another is jumping. Every morning, you can get up on your toes and perform low bouncing. It's important to mention that you should be jumping almost without taking toes out of the surface. And jumps should be fast and low. And these are generally good exercises for blood circulation and lymph circulation. And some other exercises include shaking and rotation exercises for all limbs, as the main accumulation of lymph nodes is located in the area of the joint connection. And here on the picture you can see, and most probably every one of you is doing basic training and exercising every day. So some other ways to activate the movement of limbs include adequate hydration, especially hot hydration. So for example, you can try drinking hot water every 15 minutes during the day for 2 weeks, and it stimulates the lymphatic system and also reduces swelling. And also dry cleaning is good if you don't have cuperos on the skin, and you can use a thick brush with non-coarse natural bristle, and it removes toxins and also increases lymph flow by stimulating the sweat glands and also supports blood circulation. Some of the things, this is an example of actually questionnaire, and it's in Russian, but I'll provide the link. I'm sorry, I'll provide the link with the questionnaire in English. And this is a questionnaire to check if there is symptoms of a chronic intoxication. And if you see some of the things such as intolerances and swelling, meteorism, or diarrhea on some of the foods, then it means that you probably have chronic intoxication, and that will mean that we need to improve our epigenome. And some of the effects include accelerating aging, and it also serves as trigger and catalyst for other pathological changes, and it also creates polyvalent intolerances. Some of the most common symptoms of intoxication include headache, muscle weakness, chronic fatigue, and low exercise tolerance. When we talk about anti-stress, which is a main part of our epigenome, and we need to consider vitamin D because it has a significant effect on the synthesis of certain inflammatory cytokines, and it inhibits the transcription of a number of cytokine genes which are actually inflammatory. And that's why we need to check. And if you have been waiting for a sign to check your vitamin D level, this is the sign. And reportedly, more than half of people in the world are suffering with a vitamin D deficiency. Also, another important element for anti-stress is magnesium. And the amount of magnesium in vegetables and fruits has greatly decreased over the past 50 years. And reportedly, it decreased by 24% in vegetables, by 17% in fruits, and by 26% in meat. And what's worse is that fast food and refined products not only do not satisfy the need for magnesium, but also leads to a deficiency and removes the magnesium from the body. But magnesium is crucial amount, and it is depleted during stress, physical exercise, and emotional stress. And without constant recharge, the reserves of this element are depleted. And some medications also flush magnesium, for example, diuretics, antibiotics, and other pharmaceuticals. And it is needed for muscles and our nervous system. That's why it is crucial for coping with the stress. Some of the ways to raise the immunity, apart from the vitamin D and magnesium, include restoration of the small intestine microbiome. We need to set up a diet to restore appropriate eating behavior and cover deficits. Also, it is advised maybe to follow the anti-candida protocol to reduce the growth of fungi in our organism, and also nutraceutical support to, again, cover the deficits. And of course, we need to talk about sleeping, because lack of sleep actually increases the risk of getting sick 3 times. And during sleep, cytokine proteins are synthesized. And when, for example, we do not have enough sleep, it means that our cytokine proteins are not yet produced fully. And that means that our body does not have enough cytokines to cope with the infections happening around us. And lack of sleep stimulates the production of also ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone. And a tired brain requires more food, which means that if we won't have enough sleep, we would probably eat more, and which will also lead to overeating and probably insulin resistance and changing of our internal clocks. For example, during sleep, we produce somatotropin, which is a fat burner, and it also stimulates anabolic processes such as cell division and storage of nutrients. Some of the opioid hormones are also released during sleep, such as endorphins, and that's why it is so pleasant to fall into the realm of Morpheus. And also, synthesis of cortisol occurs at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and it reaches its peak by 6 to 7 in the morning, in parallel with drop of melatonin levels. And that means that if we do not have enough sleep, our cortisol level is not enough for our activity, for to feel active during the day. And that's why we need to set up our internal clock, and also to follow sleeping hygiene. And sleeping hygiene includes, for example, having an orthopedic pillow to support the cervical spine, and not drinking a lot of fluid before the bedtime. And we can, during insomnia, we can use tulsi tea, which is a good for our melatonin levels. And we also need to sleep in a complete darkness and silence, and ventilating the room is crucial. You also need to keep a diary and free your brain from whatever you have on your mind, and to help to fall asleep quicker. And also, do not use the gadgets, and change the blue light of the screens to a warmer one. And generally, to conclude, I would like to say that we need to do a paradigm shift. So, for example, here we need to take the preference and to choose natural clothes, for example, natural sources of materials over the names and brands. And we need to do that in every aspect of our lives, for example, in food. And that's why everything said here is important to our epigenome, and some of the stuff were particularly trivial talking about here. And I hope that anything you've been hearing about here was informative for you, and I'll be happy to answer your questions if you have any. And thank you.
That was really great, Kamila. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. Really fantastic. It always blows my mind thinking about those numbers. How much is genetics versus how much is epigenetics, which really tells us that we have control over about 90% of our aging, which is just pretty crazy. You know, really, there's like it says there, 10 to 16% is out of our control, but the mass majority is based on our behavior, our environment, what we're putting into our bodies, and so on. Thank you again. Appreciate it. And I'm going to stop recording here.